Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Fed Up, your no BS nutrition podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Marie, certified personal trainer and nutrition specialist, working with clients since 2014. After swimming up diet culture's bullshit stream for so many years, I am fed the absolute up with how miserable it's making people feel when we are supposed to be getting healthier. This podcast is here to help you gain your sanity back so you can stop yo-yoing once and for all and finally learn how to trust yourself so you can enjoy food again without fear or shame while still getting to your health goals. My aim is to teach you how to detect the BS in not just the food and diet industries, but in all realms of life, because I know that, like me, we are all just a little fed up. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Alrighty, here we go into another episode of the Fed Up podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Today, I am officially fed up with the functional medicine crowd, particularly naturopaths, and I'm going to tell you exactly why I do not trust them. Now, first and foremost, I get it. Our medical system in the US is frustrating. You are in pain. You're exhausted. You have symptoms that do not make sense. And yet every time you go to the doctor, you get 10 minutes with them, and then you're told everything looks normal, or they tell you it's your anxiety, or, oh, just lose weight, and then all your problems will disappear. And they don't listen. And as someone who's been in chronic pain for more than half my life, trust me, I get it. Doctors have brushed off my back pain with like, oh, you probably just lifted too heavy, even though it started years before I actually lifted a weight. And I also had chronic UTIs all throughout my teenage years until I was 18, and they discovered kidney stones in both my freaking kidneys. So yeah, I get the frustration. And this is why people start to look for answers elsewhere. And the idea of alternative medicine or a holistic approach is really tempting and really nice because you go see a naturopath and they validate all these things you're experiencing and they have the solution, right? So granted, I'm sure there are a couple of practitioners out there who really do mean well, and they might even incorporate more evidence-based practices. But overall, this naturopathic model is like a modern-day medical MLM disguised as healthcare. So a lot of times when I read bios of holistic practitioners or naturopaths, here's the pattern I see over and over and over again. This person experiences illness, recurring illnesses, or general fatigue, or extreme malaise, and they're in pain, and they're dismissed by traditional medicine, just like you. And then they go to a naturopath for answers, or they discover the alternative to the medical world, and literally, they all end up becoming a practitioner themselves. And I get it. Sometimes it is your lived experience that pushes you into a certain field, of course, but literally all of them have the same story. But regardless, I digress. So I get it. And when you look at who are the naturopaths, I want to get into the real issue here is not with the general model. So when I look up what is a naturopath, it is defined as a healthcare professional who uses naturopathic medicine, which is a system of healing that emphasizes the body's natural ability to heal itself. And these principles focus on the whole person. Yay! Physical, mental, emotional, environmental aspects of health. And then they use natural treatments such as diet, exercise, herbs, supplements, and again, like lifestyle and other models of care. They claim to identify and treat underlying root causes of disease rather than covering up your symptoms, right? You go to a doctor, you're in pain, they give you a pain reliever, but they don't really address why you're in pain to begin with. So naturopaths have filled this gap when we have a desperate, frustrated society who is in pain and they're not getting anywhere with, feeling better. And so this is a very tempting alternative route that a lot of people find themselves going towards because of that. Honestly, it's a little desperation. And again, trust me, I get it. Like, I have been desperate to find answers. And this all sounds really good. And my issue is not with this like general model of holistic whole person care. My issue is with the actual practice of what they are doing or how they are treating these people. So let's get into it. To be a naturopath, you have two different options. The first is to become a licensed naturopathic doctor, which means you go to a specific naturopathic school accredited by the CNME, the Council on Naturopathic Medical Education. And yes, it is U.S. Department of Education accredited, but it is not medically accredited. If you are a medical school, you are accredited by the Liaison Committee of Medical Education. This is where you get your Doctor of Medicine. You become an MD or an OBGYN, things like that. When you graduate from your 4-year degree of naturopathic college, then you are eligible to take the NPLEX exam, which we'll get into a little bit later. So those are your licensed NDs. Now, this is only regulated in about 26 states, mind you. Again, we'll get into that. And the second path you can take is you can just call yourself a naturopath. You can call yourself a naturopathic practitioner. You can open a naturopathic wellness clinic with zero experience, zero education. They do not require any certifications or regulation to call yourself a naturopath. The only time you are actually required to have a license in the states that actually regulate this, you can call yourself a naturopathic doctor or an ND. So the general public, do you think we are going to know the difference between a naturopath and a naturopathic doctor? No, they sound synonymous. Okay, that's one thing. The second thing is this Council on Naturopathic Medical Education, or CNME, is accredited by the U.S. Department of Education, but again, it is not a medical school. So they kind of had to come up with like their own version because they were teaching pseudoscience in their curricula. The NPLEX exam that you take after graduating from the school is also internally given and regulated. It's almost like grading your own homework. There is no external validation. There is no third party, nothing along those lines. And they are incredibly mysterious and not transparent about what is on the exam. So that's another problem I have there. And when you look at what each state actually requires for licensure, Oregon, Washington, they're pretty broad. Some of them can prescribe medications. Texas and Florida have zero licensing requirements, so anyone can claim the title. Nevada has completely repealed the ND licensing entirely. So state to state, it varies drastically. And again, if I'm just going to create a Instagram page that says I'm a naturopath, I don't need any regulation. So if you are a medical college, you are being evaluated and recognized by different, you have the American Medical Association, you have the Association of American Medical Colleges. These are major independent professional and educational bodies that are also regulated by the government. So this is where it gets a little swampy because, again, anybody can claim to be a naturopath. And then they had to create their own colleges and universities that may or may not actually have standards of rigor, research expectations, clinical depth. Like, there is actually no medical association who is verifying these colleges. And so there's that. And they kind of joke like this insider regulation because, again, there's no external validation. There's no third party verification, whatever you want to call it. So the schools can kind of do whatever the heck they want to do. So there's that. And some of these ND programs, some of them require like hands-on clinical experience, and it's usually within the same college. Again, it's like grading your own homework. So there's that. They also have talked about how like the exam is incredibly mysterious. Nobody knows what's on the exam except for naturopaths. Interesting. So I want to talk about some of the common claims that you will find in naturopathic worlds is adrenal fatigue. It's not real, by the way. Adrenal insufficiency is, like if you're not producing norepinephrine, epinephrine, cortisol, things like that, that is a real and serious medical problem. Adrenal fatigue is the way that they tell you that, oh, no wonder you're so run down. No wonder you're a little bit fatigued. It's your adrenals. They also talk a lot about like detoxing, even though your liver and kidneys really do have that handled. And they will find the root cause, which BT dubs, that is a marketing hook. And being a future registered dietitian, I am almost finished with my bachelor's in food and nutrition. And we talk about how you are treating a root cause via nutrition. So that is proper terminology, quote unquote. But the issue with certain naturopaths is they will manipulate the lab ranges so that, of course, the labs came back normal at your regular doctor, but see, you're actually lower or higher according to our standards. So they kind of like fudge the numbers a little bit so that they can diagnose you. And this is what I have a big problem with, is because they are unnecessarily causing extreme distress and anxiety that keeps you in a state of panic. Or again, it might be validating at first, right? Like, oh, no wonder I felt like crap. Look at my numbers. And even though the medical doctor told me my numbers were normal, clearly they're not. So that's a little bit of the trap that happens there. And functional medicine is, again, a systems biology-based approach that focuses on identifying and addressing the root causes of disease. So they will often order these large functional lab panels that are not clinically validated. This is what happens when you go to a naturopath and then they do a food sensitivity test. They are testing for not like an immune mediated response. They're testing for exposure. They are testing the antibodies that your body has created in response to recognizing a food. So this is why everyone's allergic, quote unquote, to dairy, gluten, onions, garlic, and tomatoes, because they are so commonly eaten that your body will have the antibodies for that. And then they will say, see, food sensitivity test. No wonder you feel like crap. It's all the onions and garlic. So the first thing is that naturopaths make you feel seen. They make you feel heard. Like, no, I knew you were so frustrated with the medical system. Look, this is why. They dismissed you. They discredit the MDs, which only create more mistrust of doctors in the medical system, which again, I'm not saying they're all perfect, but it creates this distrust. It's us versus them, right? And this is where I have a problem, is now you have a diagnosis, even though your lab panels are normal. And now you feel validated because, yeah, I've been searching for answers and finally someone gave me an answer. Well, oftentimes the solution is supplements. Now, I can support supplemental use, especially if you have a need for it. But every single person that I've ever met who leaves a naturopath's office has more wrong with them than they ever thought they had when they first went in, which again makes it feel real. It makes it feel like, oh, no wonder I have pain. Duh, because this is down or this is high or blah, blah, blah. And now the natural correction is they stay away from like FDA approved medications, and it's natural alternative, which this is what we call the appeal to nature fallacy. Just because it's natural does not mean it is safe or effective. So some, the worst of the worst, naturopaths will tell people like, you don't need chemotherapy, you don't need cancer treatment because your body can heal itself, and here, just take these supplements. Now, oftentimes the supplements, by the way, is an unregulated industry, and they rely heavily on the supplements because they cannot prescribe real medications. Or they will tell you to go get medication that you can kind of order online, like testosterone boosting or a GLP-1, because it's like the trend, and I don't know. It's just one of those things that they do this because they lack medical authority. Oftentimes, too, they don't even do allergy testing in their office. They're like, oh, yeah, go order this test from online, do it at home, and then we'll discuss your numbers. Okay, I get it. It's like kind of nice to be able to take control of your health. Oh, I can just test it in-house, and I don't have to wait in line at the hospital, or I don't have to like go through insurance. I get the appeal, but the financial exploitation of these people is not helpful to your health. Some of these protocols cost like $500 to $2,000 monthly. And again, the concept seems smart. Let's modify some lifestyles. Let's get you with some more B vitamins. Let's add some probiotics or your enzymes. But like, if you are looking for gut health and you go to a naturopath, they claim to know all about the gut microbiota, which, by the way, we do not know nearly anything about the gut microbiota. And they are just prescribing or giving these supplements like, oh yeah, take some probiotics or take some fiber supplements. And some people might feel better with that. The issue is toxicity of vitamins and minerals is real. You can die from an iron toxicity. So if you are told, oh, of course your blood panel comes back, you're not anemic, you're within normal ranges, but your iron is like a little bit low within the range, naturopaths will fudge the numbers and then say, oh no, you are anemic, here's some iron supplements. That's dangerous, mind you. And there's this idea that natural is better, that, again, the distrust of the medical system that makes this so convincing, because oftentimes, too, they use real scientific terminology, or they use like pretty good physiological explanations for things, and then they make this massive jump, or they have the solution. They always have the solution, right? So I just want to encourage you to use a little more critical thinking skills and understand that your frustration with our Western medicine, our American healthcare, is completely valid. But the naturopaths are no frickin' better than I'm just banking on the fact that you'll spend a lot of money at my office. Never, ever, ever are you going to walk away from a naturopath's office with pure lifestyle modifications without any supplements? Now, again, this sounds really nice because you're like, well, duh, my energy's low. I need more vitamin Bs. So here's a supplement. The thing with that is, okay, if we're talking about nutritional side of things, so many of my clients who have seen naturopaths are told to cut out gluten and dairy, and meat maybe is another one that they'll cut out, or they like go full carnivore. I don't even know. Like, they have their own like dietary protocols to follow as well. And then they have to supplement you because if you cut out meat, you're cutting out your vitamin B12. So it's like this weird cycle that they do, and there's no actual evidence-based information that they're giving you. And it's not validated clinically, which I know it's tempting to be like, well, yeah, but they don't know everything. It's like, yeah, no, I know that, but they know a lot. And when you disregard modern day medicine that saves people's lives because you think they should just take a B12 supplement, like, no. And I have somebody who was looking at their insulin and their blood glucose and this, that, and the other. And their naturopath was like, oh, yeah, you're pre-diabetic. And their numbers are not clinically pre-diabetic. So if you are going to prescribe this person insulin, you need to be an MD, so you can't do that. And also, you should never be prescribing someone insulin if they are not insulin resistant. But they did say, oh, you should get on a GLP-1, which you can just order online. Or you can go through, again, these like kind of alternative routes to our medical system to get the care you need. This is so freaking dangerous. Or you have people, again, on the extreme that refuse life-saving treatment for quote unquote natural remedies, and people die. Like, this isn't like but they're just trying to make people healthier. No, they're not. They're trying to put a buck in their pocket. And there's just no evidence that a lot of their methods or a lot of their supplements or a lot of their friggin' whatever it looks like, primal queen organ supplements, there's no evidence that even in that supplement contains the proper dosage, contains the proper amount that you even need. If you're taking a bunch of water-soluble vitamins, you are literally just going to pee it out if you're not actually low in that supplement. Like, there is so much to physiology when it comes to this that naturopaths are banking on the fact that you don't understand. And they are banking on the fact that you are desperate and in pain enough and frustrated with your current doctor that you will listen to anybody who validates your experiences and then does give you a root cause, right? You're not just told it's your anxiety. It's clearly your adrenals. It's clearly this, that, and the other. So here's all these supplements. Now, again, they might tell you to exercise more, go to sleep on time, things like that. That's what actually works. And I'm not saying that you can do everything right? You can work out, you can eat well, you can go to sleep on time, you can quote unquote manage your stress and still experience pain. And I think that this is something that has been a little misconstrued in our modern day era, where we're being told that you should experience zero pain, that you should feel fully energetic every single day. And there shouldn't be fluctuations in, your libido, or there's no fluctuations in energy, or, okay, you are a flawed being who is bipedal, meaning you are standing upright on 2 feet and there's a lot of compression happening on your spine. And we live in an environment that is really convenient for high processed foods that are high in saturated fat, low in fiber, high in calories. We are in front of TVs and computer screens and sitting down for 6 to 12 hours a day, or you are working like hard labor, which those are all such like difficult things for your body and your brain to feel its best with. Our environment is not conducive to being without any pain. And again, I understand this so deeply. The pain that I feel sometimes, it is more mentally frustrating sometimes than physically painful. Like, the actual mental exhaustion that comes from being in pain it takes its toll. It takes its toll. And these people are banking on the fact that you are so desperate and so in pain that you'll listen to anybody that will listen to you. Now, I do believe there needs to be some changes in our medical system. I used to have this doctor. She was a nurse practitioner. She would spend 45 minutes with me in the office going through like a bunch of stuff. And she was actually the one who was like, your chronic pain is a little bit textbook ADHD. And I'm like, what? ADHD is like your brain, not your body. Nope, you can't separate the two. They have shown that people with ADHD have higher rates of things like fibromyalgia, myofascial pain syndrome, which is what I have, chronic pain. They also show that children who move a lot during their childhood, especially for, disadvantaged youth, maybe their parents were divorced and they had to move a bunch, or they got evicted because of low income, like things like that. Those children are much more likely to turn into adults with chronic pain. There is a psychosocial, multifactorial cause for low back pain that is not just easily diagnosed with an MRI. So this is also what's frustrating is you might get all the scans and all the tests and they're like, there's nothing physiologically wrong with you. And then you're like, well, I'm just being dismissed. No. There is nothing physiologically on the screen, on the blood panel, in the MRI, whatever, that shows that that is the cause of your pain. But your brain is actually the cause of pain. And I'm not saying that in like, it's all in your head. It is all in your head. Your brain receives pain signals. So fibromyalgia is something that you might be diagnosed with when they can't find any reason why you are in pain. Well, guess what? The reason is your brain is interpreting pain signals, or it's hyperactively, creating pain signals, whatever it may look like. If you walk into a doctor's office or a naturopath's office and they claim to know, well, your back pain is due to this, or your back pain is due to this, run for your life. Like, there is so much nuance. There is so much like, well, it depends, or like, well, sometimes that happens because we are not, flawless beings who should just be like, no pain, no gain, like some people never experience pain. Some people experience a lot of pain despite how healthy they are. And I think that this is what naturopaths are banking on, is you are willing to spend $2,000 a month to get out of pain. Oh man, I would, right? And that's what I want to caution you against here, is not necessarily seeking help or going, to find an alternative reason why you might be experiencing pain. My call to action for you is to take a step back and ask yourself, wait, maybe I'm just gonna be in pain. Maybe I'm just a fatigued type of gal. And there are things you can do, right, to regulate your circadian rhythm, to go to bed a little bit easier, or to fall asleep longer and regulate your REM cycles and blah, blah, blah. Like, there are lifestyle things that you can do, and you can do everything right and still not be a perfect angel being who doesn't experience hardship, doesn't experience fatigue. Another thing is this like idea of, oh, well, if you're fatigued, if you have low energy, if you're, irritable and you can't sleep and this, that, and the other, immediately they're like, well, it's because of your thyroid or adrenal or this or that. And they never really address the fact that you're not eating enough carbohydrates, or you don't know how to establish boundaries with your work, with your family, with your friends. So you are burning at both ends. And I know that, again, seems like, well, that's what doctors just tell me. Oh, like you're just anxious. That's not what I'm saying. But for somebody to say, well, you're in pain because of X, Y, and Z, and I have the solution. Take a step back and say, no, you don't. Because they don't. They really, really don't. And trust me, like if experts really knew how to get people out of pain, no one would be in pain. And I don't say that to discourage you, like, well, you're always going to be in pain, but it's just something to remember that people want to give you the problem because they have the solution. It is a marketing tactic. And how strong is placebo when a doctor says, oh yeah, just take this supplement and then you'll have more energy? Well, guess what? You might, I'm also going to be going to bed on time. I'm also like taking a walk every morning for 20 minutes. Like you might be doing things in your lifestyle that give you more energy, but you think it's the supplement. And I'm not saying that placebo means it's fake. Placebo is a real thing. This is why they have to account for it in scientific research, because people will experience true benefit of things because they believe it's benefiting them. And naturopaths are banking on this. So that's why I don't trust them. So the concept, again, I get it, holistic, that seems so ideal. And then I have a client, just to give you one more little example here, who is in her 60s, and she was experiencing some arthritic pains in her hands. But to her, she's like, well, there's no way it's arthritis. Even though her doctor told her it's arthritis. She goes, no, it can't be. I don't know what it is, whether it's denial, whether it's just, I don't know what it is, but Evidently, it cannot be arthritis. So she seeks out a naturopath, and the naturopath orders a food sensitivity test and tells her to cut out all gluten and dairy. And then I experienced weeks of this client like, well, I'm trying to get all the things that contain gluten out of my house, and then I'll start this gluten-free diet. Like the stress that this 65-year-old woman was experiencing because she didn't know how to cut out gluten, didn't know how to cut out dairy, and whole grains and dairy were her main sources of protein, of fat and carbs and nutrients. And this doctor just told her to cut it all out. Cut it all out. Without any actual nutrition coaching, without any actual diagnosis of celiac, without looking at the fact that this woman's like 50% of her calories are coming from dairy and gluten. It is more dangerous to cut her calories in half as a 65-year-old thin woman with osteoporosis. Oh my gosh, it was so frustrating because me as a personal trainer too, like I don't have the authority or the scope to be like, don't listen to your doctor. Like I'm not going to do that, even if it is a naturopathic doctor. And when I asked her like, oh, well, which, study or which sensitivity test did she have you do? Is it testing for IgG antibodies or IgE antibodies? IgG antibodies are your body's recognition system. IgE antibodies is an immune response to protein in a food that you're allergic to. If you're just going to be diagnosing sensitivities based on exposure to foods, no wonder she, red flags go up with dairy and gluten because she consumes those foods. And you're not even going to address the psychological impact that you're making this woman incredibly stressed, anxious, borderline freaking panic disorder, afraid to eat anything. Like this is how you fuel eating disorders and this is how people die. Okay. So anyway, that's my thoughts. I hope that this helps. Maybe, I don't know, if you're somebody who has experienced this with a naturopath, I would love to hear your story. I also, again, I know people who have had really great experiences and are not bamboozled by somebody just prescribing supplements, but this is such a common issue I have with my friends, my clients, people that I just see on social media, and the fear, the anxiety, the unnecessary supplements and everything else along with it. I just can't get on board. So I hope that helps. And ultimately, if you are really looking for some natural lifestyle modifications, please come talk to me. Send me a message, send me an email, visit my website, because this is what I do. I try to break you from I try to break you free from this like panic and this anxiety that you're experiencing about your health and give you more confidence and autonomy and some real practical things you can start doing to see if that makes a difference first before you add in a whole bunch of other stuff, natural or not. So, hope this helps. Thanks for listening. And I will chat at you next week. Bye. Thanks so much for being here, friends. If you enjoyed this episode, please screenshot and tag me over on Instagram or leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening from. Your support means the world to me and only helps me get the no BS news out to more people. If you're interested in working with me in nutrition or personal training, check out my programs and courses on my website at kaylamariefitness.com and on Instagram at kaylamarie_fit. See you next week.